Hello and welcome to News Central Now, coming to you live from our studio in Lagos, Nigeria. I am Benga Aborowa, and here are the top stories at this hour. The United Nations says 2.1 million people in Ethiopia's eastern regional state are in need of humanitarian assistance. Somali National Army takes control of Al-Shabaab strongholds. And Libya takes delivery of first COVID-19 vaccines. We'll bring you all the details shortly. We begin the news in the Horn of Africa, where the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says about 2.1 million people in Ethiopia's eastern Somali regional state are in need of humanitarian assistance. In a bi-weekly humanitarian bulletin report, the UNOCHA linked their need for assistance to the drying up of traditional water sources. The UN agency also said availability of limited functional water boreholes in the drought-affected areas mean water trucking schemes are urgently needed. The agency says at least $65.5 million is required to cover all identified needs. It adds that the humanitarian needs in the country have also been exacerbated by the outbreak of the COVID-19 disease. Staying in the region, Ethiopia's foreign ministry says Eritrean forces have started withdrawing from the Tigray region in the north. These comes more than a day after G7 countries on Friday called for a swift, unconditional and verifiable withdrawal of Eritrean soldiers, followed by a political process that is acceptable to all Ethiopians. In a rejoinder, Ethiopia's foreign ministry said the statement by the G7 foreign ministers had not acknowledged key steps being taken to address the needs of the region. It added that the Eritrean troops who had crossed the border when provoked by the TPLF have now started to evacuate. The ministry adds that full access to the region has now been granted to humanitarian organizations. Now, Somalia reports say the National Army has taken control of Al-Shabaab strongholds in the south of Dusemarab. Local media on Sunday says the army also liberated areas including Sinadaho and Labidule, which were used by the militia to disrupt security operations. The report comes a day after Al-Shabaab militants on Saturday morning attacked multiple fronts, running over Barire, Ahwadig and other towns. The militant group said they killed 6 and 7 Somali soldiers in the 2 ambush attacks, but a Somali army commander said the army killed 76 militants and captured 10 during the attack. We now move to West Africa, where Niger's newly elected president Mohamed Bazoum has appointed former minister Mahamadou as prime minister to head his new cabinet. Mahamadou previously served as the minister in charge of finance and mining. He was also the chief of staff to former President Mahamadou Issoufou between 2015 and 2021. And in neighboring Nigeria, governor of the southwestern state of Oyo, Seyi Makinde, has charged traditional rulers to complement government's efforts to tackle insecurity in the state. Governor Makinde gave the charge at a meeting with traditional rulers and security agencies. He said the government will continue to improve security to sustain economic growth being recorded in the state.
So I'm calling you here is because we want you to be a big part of what we're doing. A major player in tackling the issue of insecurity. I have said it before, security cannot work without intelligence gathering. And we cannot gather intelligence without getting closer to the people. In all of the troubled areas over across our states, the royal fathers often get information before we do. And that is why it is important that we must collaborate with you. So I called you here today, not to threaten you, but to ask you to work with this administration to tackle insecurity in our various areas of the state.
News Central's documentary on the living condition of the people living in Makoko, a community in Nigeria's economic capital of Lagos. Certain individuals have donated books and other learning materials to children there. News Central's Bernard Akede was at Makoko, where the donations and presents were presented. Tenny sends in this report.
Early this year, News Central produced a documentary about Makoko, a suburb in Lagos, southwest Nigeria. Situated close to the water, Makoko is a community which is heavily lacking in basic amenities. After seeing the documentary, some well-meaning Nigerians decided to make some generous donations to the schools in the riverine area.
So I saw a video on a friend's status, and I was wondering what was going on. So when I was listening to it, I heard the teacher saying that children use slates, and that was what ticked me off. Like, what? At this time and age when education has gone into technology, people are making use of technology to learn, and some children are still making use of slates.
The Baale of the community was extremely grateful for the donations made, saying books and other materials for learning are worth more than money.
Very good. But see, I want to allocate to you, I be any to you. Mo tolo lọ́wọ́ mo tolo gangan mi jẹ́jẹ́ balẹ̀ àyídé kon ranti wa nbi kon ranti wa ní àgọ́ egu ko bá wa kon nǹkan tó dá.
One of the teachers who has been working in the makeshift site where the community uses as a school was appreciative but stated that more is needed.
I'm very happy. I didn't know that all these things will come here before. Actually, what I planned for, I thought that they want to give something to the kids, but when I saw it, now I'm very happy. I'm glad to see it.
I got to know about all of this through a friend's status, and I spoke to her about all of this and how we can step in. So we decided to come in together and see how we can create bodies to come in to help these children, to help these people. I mean, they are leaders of tomorrow. Yes, they are knowledgeable children. It's just an opportunity that they need.
The learning materials donated to the school in Makoko will go a long way in aiding academic activities, but the children and people of Makoko still need more if their lives are to improve. Bernard Akede, News Central, Lagos.
Staying in West Africa, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has condemned in the strongest terms Friday's attack by bandits on a camp of UN peacekeepers in Mali. The attack in Agohok, Kidal region, left 4 peacekeepers from the Canadian contingent dead and 19 others injured. The Secretary General applauded the courage and bravery of the peacekeepers who robustly repelled the attack. The Secretary General conveyed his heartfelt condolences to the government and people of Chad, while extending his profound sympathies to the families and loved ones of the victims. Guterres recalled that attacks targeting UN peacekeepers may constitute war crimes under international law, and that sanctions can be applied against those responsible. Kenya's Ministry of Foreign Affairs says all passengers originating from or transiting through the United Kingdom airports will be required to go through a mandatory 14-day isolation at a government-designated facility at their own cost upon entry into Kenya. The move is seen as a retaliation for the United Kingdom imposing strict measures on travellers from Kenya. The Foreign Ministry says travellers from the United Kingdom will undergo 2 PCR COVID-19 tests on day 2 of being in isolation and day 8 of the quarantine. This decision could have deep and far-reaching consequences on Kenya-UK trade, travel, tourism, security cooperation, amongst other sectors. Now, staying in East Africa, 6 people have been killed and 4 others wounded in a suicide bombing in the Somali capital, Mogadishu. Ministry of Information spokesperson Ismail Omar said 3 women and a child were amongst those killed when a suicide bomber blew himself up at a restaurant in Shangani, Mogadishu. The attack comes hours after Somali National Army reported its forces killed more than 85 Al-Shabaab fighters and arrested 15 others following Saturday's terrorist attacks at 2 Somali Army national bases in the Lower Shabelle region. The motive of the suicide bomber has not yet been established, but sources say he could have been targeting a police station or government ministry located near the restaurant where he eventually blew himself up. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has met with his Defence Minister Nosiviwe Mapsia-Kakula following his announcement that troops have been sent to Mozambique to evacuate South Africans following deadly attacks by ISIS-affiliated jihadist fighters. President Ramaphosa did not specify how many South African soldiers had been sent, but he assured that everything was being done to repatriate nationals caught up in the latest wave of violence. One South African man was among the dozens of people killed in the attack carried out by groups believed to be affiliated with ISIS. His body has since been returned home. There is no indication how long the South African troops will remain in Mozambique. You're watching News Central now. Coming up on the news, Libya has taken delivery of over 100,000 doses of Russia's Sputnik V COVID-19 vaccines. We'll bring you all the details of this and more after the break. Join us again. Today is Easter Sunday, and Catholics all over the world are celebrating the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Activities during this year's Lenten season leading to Easter have been somewhat different due to the COVID-19 pandemic. News Central's Bernard Akede was at the Holy Cross Catholic Cathedral in Lagos Island and sends in this report.
The 40-day season of fasting and sober reflection is over, and Catholics around the world are celebrating Easter Sunday. Easter Sunday commemorates the resurrection of Jesus Christ after 3 days of death following his crucifixion. Last year, Catholics in Lagos State celebrated Easter Sunday Mass from their homes as Lagos was on lockdown due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Last year, as you said, we didn't come at all, but this year, the number is larger than that of last year. So, and we thank God particularly that our prayers are not in vain. The vaccine has been detected.
The Archbishop of Lagos, Most Reverend Alfred Adewale Martins, shared the message of peace at the Easter Mass while being grateful to God that this year, unlike the last, Catholics are able to worship together as one family. At the Holy Cross Catholic Cathedral, 28 children received their first Holy Communion, a practice that goes back many centuries. Though COVID-19 restrictions are still being observed inside the church, this didn't stop parishioners from coming in their numbers to celebrate Easter Sunday Mass, which they missed out on last year. With the celebration of Easter, Catholics can once again sing Hallelujah while praying for normalcy to return to the church and ultimately to the rest of the world. Bernard Akede, News Central Lagos.
Meanwhile, orphanage homes in Nigeria's southwestern state of Oyo received an Easter surprise when the governor's wife, Tamanomini Makinde, paid them a visit. Mrs. Makinde appreciated the managers and caregivers for the care they have been giving the children. Gifts distributed to the vulnerable homes include bags of rice, beans, cartons of noodles, toiletries, and cash.
I wish to appreciate the managers, the caregivers, for the care you've given to these children. If the government can support you, fine. But I want you to go all out and do the best you can do, so that when you're done and you look back at your track record, you're not regretting. So we appreciate you for even starting small. Some people are waiting to start big and they never start.
And now to a continuous coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic across Africa. More than 100,000 doses of Russia's Sputnik V COVID-19 vaccine have arrived at Tripoli's Makoko airport as the first shipment to reach Libya. A box of the vaccine was shown being unloaded from a cargo plane in the mid-social media post by the health ministry, saying it would be moved to the ministry's warehouses before distribution. In February, the Disease Control Center launched an electronic registration campaign for vaccination for those aged over 18. No details on the numbers of those registering have been disclosed. And in Southern Africa, Zimbabwe's capital, Harare, has opened more immunization centers in a bid to ramp up vaccination against the pandemic. Harare City Council, in a statement on Sunday, said 24 centers, including hospitals, polyclinics and satellite clinics, have been designated as vaccination centers in the city of about 1.5 million people. Vaccination has been rolled out during this Easter period in hopes of attracting more people. The government aims to vaccinate 10 million people out of the country's 60 million people to achieve herd immunity. At least 3 Afghan security personnel have been killed following a car bombing near Kabul. We'll bring you this and more during World Wrap when we return. Stay with us. A car bombing near Kabul on Sunday has killed at least 3 Afghan security personnel and injured 12 others. Spokesman for the police in Kabul, Firdaus Famaraz, said the numbers could rise. A Taliban in a statement said 45 Afghan security force members were killed or injured in the blast. The insurgent group also issued a warning against what it called continued airstrikes in a number of areas of Afghanistan, saying they violate an agreement between the Taliban and the United States. Sunday's attack comes as Washington looks to inject life into the slow-moving peace talks. And in Jordan, the former crown prince is accused of trying to mobilize tribal leaders against the government. The country's deputy prime minister, Ayman Safadi, said Prince Hamza bin Hussein worked with foreign entities to destabilize the state. The prince had earlier released 2 videos claiming he was being held under house arrest. In his videos, Prince Hamza, the king's half-brother, said he had been told he could not go out or communicate with people.
To communicate with people or to meet with them, because that in the meetings that I had been present in or on social media relating to visits that I've made, there's been criticism of the government or the king. I asked him if I was the one criticizing. He said no. He said, but this was a warning from him, from the chief of police, and from the chief of the security services, the Mukhabarat, that I should not leave my house, that I could only visit family, that I could not tweet, and that I could not communicate with people.
In business, there are indications that Egypt has postponed a tender for a license to manufacture conventional and electronic cigarettes. These comes amidst an auction slated to hold on Tuesday for the license, which would have ended a decades-old monopoly by the state-controlled Eastern Company. Reuters quote sources who say the postponement is indefinite and conditions for the auctions will be changed if it is held again. Egypt's Industrial Development Authority informed companies about the postponement a day before the deadline to lodge bids, adding that some had asked authorities to halt the bidding round. And up next, sports. And finally, in sports, Nigeria's Enyimba International have beaten visiting ES City of Algeria 2-1 in the match day 3 fixture of the 2020-2021 CAF Confederations Cup competition. The Algerians opened scoring in the 13th minute through Monsef Bakra, but the goal was cancelled out by Austin Oladapo's 40th minute equaliser. Tosin Omoyele got the winner in the 60th minute to secure all 3 points for the two-time winners of the CAF Champions League. And that's all on the news at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. The United Nations says 2.1 million people in Ethiopia's eastern Somali regional state are in need of humanitarian assistance. The Somali National Army is taking control of Al-Shabaab strongholds in South Dusamareb. And finally, we told you that Libya has taken delivery of the country's first COVID-19 vaccines. Many thanks for watching. I am Benga Aboroa.